sports.
It's time for Madden NFL Football 22. We're on Xbox Series X taking a look at this optimized next-gen version of this year's American football game. So what we're getting here is actually some really neat options. We got a partial next-gen look into just what they're providing with Madden with last year's game. It came just after the launch of the consoles. You know, it was a significant bump up in terms of like the visual quality, and we're seeing really the first year's bigger entry focusing on next-gen options. And look at those terrible 2D mountains way up into the distance. I don't know if you notice them, but they're comically, like, they stand out so badly. Anyways, we get a couple of neat options. We're going to jump to the game, and we're going to talk about this. So you get your traditional 4K 60 mode. So that's, you know, pretty expected at this point. We've got HDR support. But what's really neat about this year is they also give you a secondary option that you don't have to play in 4K 60. So you can actually increase your fluidity if I can get to a part where I'm actually seeing the gameplay here so I can pause. But yeah, you can go to options. And you can go to your settings and you can actually adjust the graphics for, I believe this is the first time in a Madden game, to performance. So I believe what we're getting here is 120 FPS at like 1080p, maybe 1440, I think the former. I wasn't able to get like an exact number from my PR groups. They said they just didn't have the info and they couldn't get it for me, I guess. Well, just what it is, right? But anyways, it is kind of insane playing this at this level of fluidity. It just feels so smooth. I mean, you obviously, or hopefully you're noticing that there is a significant degradation in the quality of the visuals and stuff. I think 4K 60 is still like a really, you know, kind of great option just in regards to having, you know, really, really beautiful and great playing game. I do think that's kind of the way to go for the visual standpoint. But if you have 120 FPS as an option, because you know you got to have a TV that supports it. Keeping in mind, recording-wise, you're not going to see the true impact of 120 because you know YouTube doesn't support it, can't record at it. But you're seeing just like kind of the visual change, hopefully, between the 4K 60 and this one. But yeah, if you're playing like really seriously, you know, in a competitive way and whatnot, I think the 120 FPS gives you a huge advantage. And it's just the way the characters kind of move, the fluidity, everything like that feels really, really fast. It feels really brutal. It's actually a really great sort of like visual upgrade to the game, just in terms of perhaps not necessarily the visual quality of what you see, but the visual quality and how the game feels and how it plays. Having the 120 FPS is really great. And I know we're kind of really focusing on, you know, the visual element of it. At this point, we will be talking overall review of the game as well. But I just wanted to start off by talking about this feature because, again, it's new. We've never had anything like this, to my knowledge, any sort of graphics option to this degree, and it's just kind of really neat that that option is present and that they make that available in the game for you to enjoy. So, anyways, same Madden experience, same simulation from EA Sports. You know, very typical of what you've come to expect over the previous years. I'd say the biggest changes this year are, you know, kind of the franchise mode, smaller things, and the odd performance hiccup here or there as the game did crash there. But that could have also been because I was switching the visual settings. Anyways, moving past that, I would say that in some ways this year's isn't as good as last year's, and I know a lot of people had a lot of issues with last year's version, so just kind of keep that in mind from that perspective, that I have heard reports of varying issues. Now, I did play, you know, quite a bit of this even during, like, say, a stream that I did, so you can see that on the channel, and I didn't really have any real issues or problems. But, yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. I also really want to say that the crowd density and whatnot is really cool in this one. I love the close-ups, the different like looks of the different people in the crowds, the different clothing designs, and they're reactive to like the weather, and they cheer on different things. I think that's kind of cool. It's also got a lot of the modern, I don't know how you would say, football sort of little things going on from like the visual aesthetics for like transitions and individuals, and some of the verbiage and everything like that are right up to date with the current NFL standards and whatnot, so that's kind of neat if you're into that, I suppose. So let's talk about the different modes. So obviously we're playing a quick play now exhibition. We're gonna switch it up every once in a while though. You got signature moves for like reacting to things that are going on. But yeah, you've got your play now, which is very typical, and we'll show off different types. We'll do a rain match, we'll do one in the snow, and we're going to talk about those environmental aspects too. You've got your traditional online play, so you can compete with others, up to 6 players. There's local for 4 players, you know, very traditional in that sense. I mean, that's kind of just sort of how these games kind of work in that regard, so keep that in mind. Lots of difficulty options so that you can adjust, you know, visually how the game plays and everything like that. Well, maybe not visually, but like how the AI reacts to you, how you react to the game. You know, different options for different types of players depending on how competitive and how into it you want to be. You know, that's entirely up to you and how you want to play the game. It's got all the rosters and everything up to date. They've got these neat, like, play sessions where you can basically emulate actual games that are going on. They've got all these interesting systems that kind of do changes to the game. Now, I personally hate the momentum system. So this is like a newer thing that they've been working on. Oh, come on, man. Where it's basically a momentum system that alters the game to a degree. So I'm trying to think of where that is. Visual feedback. So I believe I think it's this or on-field visual feedback. Oh crap, was that something There's an option here that I had to turn off because, so there's a certain mode where it like makes your quarterback kind of drunk, if that makes sense, and your screen sways around really awkwardly, but in like the third quarter. And it was just, like, it was actually making me nauseous. And it's just kind of stupid, this option. I really do hate that you can't turn these features off, this, like, momentum type thing. I don't appreciate it. I don't want it in the game. So it just does all these weird, quirky things where it's kind of like, hey, you know, your character, you can't see the button controls in the far distance, or this player has, like, unlimited stamina, or your team is unstoppable in this area. And it's just kind of like, it makes the game a little arcadey, if that makes sense. Like, it sort of moves away from the simulation element. Oh crap, that was bad. If that makes sense. And it's just like, I get that those are things that could happen in a game, I guess you could say, but for me it's sort of like, goes back to some of the older Maddens where they had like buttons on the controller, or on the characters, where it was like, this guy's got a shield and whatnot, and that makes him special. And, you know, they've also got that with the X Factor, where different characters have different feats. I don't think that is necessarily an issue, but I think for having these like momentum shifts on the teams, I think it just makes some really awkward adjustments to the game that I really don't quite enjoy. So, you know, that's just something to keep in mind while you're playing. Was that in? I don't know if that was in or not. Anyways, again, visually, you know, kind of captures it. We've also got a lot of changes to the franchise mode. They've really sort of cleaned up and or adjusted a lot of the different menus. There's an in-depth scouting reports. You can put points into your various, I guess you could say, trainers and the individuals that are in your franchise and whatnot. Is that incomplete? Can we challenge this? No, just kidding. But yeah, that's what I was saying with the crowds. They're like really dynamic, and they give you these cool angles with all these different types of fans. I think that's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't think these stadiums necessarily get this many people, or at least not all the stadiums do, from what I've seen watching football over the years. So that's kind of interesting, but yeah, it's just kind of, you know, unique in that regard. The franchise mode does have quite a lot going on in it. I just thought it was something to kind of talk about. Weekly strategies, a really redeveloped franchise mode. Like, I think there's, you know, quite a few options and tweaks to it. Yeah, I mentioned staff points, skill trees, different types of talents. You can do basically some like press chats, if that makes sense. Like, you could talk to the press. There's a multi-season engine. So the season engine kind of like changes the dynamics of your long-term season to season. So in the past you play one season and then it would just kind of be like, okay, you just continue. But now it's like there's dynamics that change based on what you do in a season, and that's like a long-term type thing. If you're somebody that plays like a lot of seasons of Madden in the franchise mode, I think you'll kind of appreciate that. There's also your traditional Ultimate Team with the cards and, you know, the card system and that. I think it's fair to say that that one is, you know, very similar to what's come before when it comes to, like, Madden Ultimate Team. I don't think it's really too different. There's, like, dynamic in-game next-gen stats and everything that they've included. But you know what I mean. It's basically something that you've probably experienced in the past. Face of the franchise is back, so you create your avatar. They're really pushy about that in the menu of the game, where they want you to create your avatar in order to kind of do stuff. So that's like a new player class system for more customization. I don't think Face of the Look at those awful 2D mountains in the backdrop. Ugh. But I don't think that one's really gotten too many, like, huge changes this year. It's kind of, like, not really big on the advertising front for them, but, you know, it's kind of back. If you liked Face of the franchise, I think you'll, you know, kind of enjoy it again. So that option's present there. We're going to get this touchdown, I hope, and then we're going to switch over to showing off a rain condition map, because, again, I don't want to show the whole video just being, like, one match. Try to mix it up. There we go. Touchdown. You can do your team thing. And let's just switch over to another match setup. So this is a rain scenario. I like to show off the different weathering conditions and talk about that when I do my reviews each year for the game, because I do feel that different environments change things up a little bit. The rain is very similar to past years. You know, your characters, they obviously get wet, the uniforms. You really see some beautiful visuals just in regards to, like, the lighting and whatnot, and just how the water impacts the field. The fans kind of change to that. It's neat. It's well done, the rain. It does still feel somewhat semi-superficial, though, in regards to it not necessarily really feeling as though it's impacting the world, like actually raindrops hitting things. Like, you can see the droplets, you can see the players hitting, like, little things like puddles and everything, but it still doesn't feel quite, I don't know how you describe it. It doesn't fully feel like it's hitting things, if that makes sense, and I hope that's a good way to describe that. And I just kind of hope it gets pushed, you know, further and further over time. So other modes include the yard, which is where you kind of do, like, some multiplayer type things, where you do some competitive stuff with your customized player, and you kind of work through stuff. You know, that one's also basically the same. It's got, like, a slightly redesigned campaign element of it, so they've added some more, I guess you can say, unique locations for it, if that makes sense visually. That's kind of interesting. And there's Superstar KO, so you can have specific team rosters that you create of superstars, like, I think it's like X Factor superstars, and you kind of have them, you know, face off against other teams of similar dynamics. It's a co-op eliminator mode, so that's kind of a neat play on, you know, football and everything like that. I think it's a little bit different, which is kind of cool. So it's mostly, you know, this one's a lot more, I want to say AI driven, but it's more stats driven for actual regular game day features. You know, some adjustments here or there for the visuals. Having the two options, I think, in the game is quite cool, just for, like, again, graphics. I think, to me, that's quite a big highlight that you get that choice now. I think it's definitely appreciated, and definitely something that's cool. I think it's a lot better, too, players-wise. There seems to be a lot less clipping of the players, as in players, like, fading through each other. Some of the crowd stuff we mentioned, but also some of the stuff on the benches and whatnot feels a little bit more dynamic and responsive to what's going on. So it's mostly like a year of smaller polishing on some of the things, while also not really being hugely innovative. It feels like a very small step. And then on top of that, you know, I really haven't noticed too many, personally, like from my experience, issues playing it a lot. But I have heard other people in that. I mean, I've had one crash, and that was during the during the review filming, which is kind of funny. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. Like, it seems like a very competent, fine version of the game. It delivers Madden. If you played, you know, the last Madden, you saw it get its optimization. You know, it's very much in line with how that feels and how that plays. If this is your first time jumping into the next-gen Madden, I think you're going to find that it is, you know, quite a nice looking game. Visually, it's quite impressive. It looks great. You know, gameplay wise, I think it delivers that Madden style that you're looking for. I just don't necessarily think it's as innovative as I was sort of hoping for. But you know, it does have a lot of modes, it's got a lot of features, and there's a lot of content to it. So that's also fine. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, it's alright. Is the biggest thing here. I'm just not feeling that it's like making huge strides or big jumps, and you could say, you know, that's just the kind of state of the industry at this point due to certain things, but you know, at the same time, it's like, you could take things further. Like, I mean, I think the presentation, that's kind of cool. I do think it's hilarious, though, that we finally have started, you know, getting more, like, celebration-type things. Because I remember that was a thing a very long time ago, and then the league kind of, like, complained about it or something like that, and now it's sort of, like, back in the game. You can, you know, you can do all that sort of stuff with the celebrations and whatnot, and I know it's not necessarily like a big new feature, but it's like, you know, just something to mention that I'm just thinking is kind of funny playing it. I'm like, oh yeah, because we weren't allowed that at one point, right? Now they're kind of like, oh, okay, go ahead. Just kind of funny. But yeah, you know, I think the X Factor system is neat. I don't like the momentum system. I really wish there was like a toggle option for it. I don't really agree with its inclusion. Ooh, no, that didn't work out. But I mean, all to their own, right? You're gonna play the man how you want and stuff. I just think it would be a nice option to be like, hey, I don't like this feature. I want more of a traditional type thing. And at least from what I've noticed, I don't really see controls for adjusting that to a degree, except for turning off the drunkenness, which honestly made me feel very nauseous when I was doing a stream of this game. I felt very sick. So it's kind of great that you can at least turn that setting off, although it is a little hidden in the settings, if that makes sense. And it was just like, really, you know, I don't want to deal with that. And again, here, you know, can't see the buttons for certain players. I don't like that. But since we're running down the clock in regards to our set review time for the game, I do want to switch over to showing off a bit of the snow environment so that you can see how that looks in action, because, you know, I like to talk about each of the different, you know, visual choices. That was an easy pick for that guy right there, basically gave it to him. But let's switch over to that other option. So here's our final portion of the review. I wanted to talk about the snow, which I think is really poorly done. It actually feels like a step back from what we've had. I don't think I was too happy with the snow, but I thought it was getting better with the last version. But it seems like they've totally removed from a couple versions back the ability for the bodies to impact the snow. So when the players get pushed down into the snow, you'll notice that there's absolutely no impact to the snow at all. It only measures the feet, so only the feet deform the snow, and I just think it looks really, really bad and very poorly done. And I know the snow's probably not like the biggest deal for most people. Oh, he swatted it out there, damn. But you know, when you're doing like reviews and whatnot, and you're from Canada, you kind of look at the snow and you're like, this is not good. So yeah, the snow is, like, it's a lot more exact for the footprints, but like, your players literally, when their bodies hit it, nothing happens at all. Like, absolutely nothing. It's so weird and fake looking. Not to mention the snow and how it's falling is really unnatural, and because it's weird, because so they'll do chop shots where you can see like the top of the stadium, you can see the crowds, and there's like a nice bit of like sort of a snow haze, a snow mist. That looks really realistic and really well done. And then you just look at the field and it's just like there was almost no effort involved in the snow quality of this experience. And this is not like a huge part of the review. It's just something I'm kind of looking at and being like, this needs to be looked at, and it needs to be fixed for like authenticity's sakes, because it's like, really, you know, it really doesn't look good like that. Oh, I really thought you were gonna have that. Like, the snow is just like, oh, you see what I'm talking about? That's just atrocious. Anyways, this year's Madden is about the same as traditional Maddens. I think it's a bit of a, it's not as good as last year's. It's not as like innovative. I think in some regards it's a step back. I don't like that momentum system. X Factor's cool. I like all of the sort of stats and systems they have in here where you can kind of be like, oh, this is cool game day and whatnot. I think that's quite well done. I think that's kind of cool. And, you know, it's very much Madden, so I think a lot of people that like, you know, Madden are going to pick it up because it's football. This is the game. This is your option. I mean, you don't really have too many other choices out there. This is what you get. So, I mean, you're either going to grab it or you're not. It's just kind of a debate of if you're someone that's hardcore enough wanting to pick it up every year. I do think the two type performance options is fascinating from a technical standpoint. I think it's really great, and I hope they play on that more in the future. So I had fun with it. You know, it was kind of what I expected from Madden. At the same time, I was kind of like, you know, it's not necessarily the greatest iteration of the game, but, you know, it delivers football, and it's got some neat features, and it's got some neat next-gen optimizations that I appreciate. And again, I will see you next year to check out Madden 23, I would imagine. But yeah, good luck in your football seasons and everything like that, as I imagine some people are dedicated and play a lot of this. So I hope you guys have fun with that and enjoy your year of football. And, you know, if it's EA Sports, it's in the game. And if it's in the game, it's in the game. If you remember that Madden year, but that was very fun.
2 of their 3 red zone trips so far, they've come up empty on. They'll look to reverse that trend on 2nd and goal. Again, they'll throw with Brady. And Evans hauls it in. Touchdown, Bucs. Mike Evans in the final seconds of the first half. And the Bucs have taken the lead. CD for them. This has just been an offensive explosion here in the second quarter.
Yeah, held scoreless in the first quarter. Now they find